After spending the last 3 years living in Thailand, people thought I was crazy for returning to the UK, and I'd be inclined to agree. I was getting comments like, why leave a country with such great weather? Why leave a country that offers such an amazing lifestyle? Why leave a country you loved and seemed so happy in? But the majority of people took a different stance with comments such as, why return to the UK? It's a shithole. You must be mad. This move makes no sense. Britain is broken. Why would any sane person want to return to this dump when you'd already escaped to paradise? No one could get their head around the fact that I'd chosen, not coerced, not forced, but chosen to return to the UK when I was so vocal about being so happy in Thailand. Let me take you back a few years and put my journey to a freedom lifestyle into context. It was 2021 and the UK had just started to open its borders and allow residents to venture out. Like many businesses during that period, I had scaled back staff, terminated the lease of my office, and took my marketing agency completely online, allowing me to base myself anywhere in the world. But where exactly? I was chomping at the bit to escape the UK to a country with better weather, better food, and a better vibe. And that somewhere was Thailand. Over the next 3 years, I lived in Koh Phangan, Samui, Chiang Mai, Pattaya, and Bangkok, travelling back to London for a month or two during the summer. Thailand offered me everything: sunshine, beaches, amazing food, pubs, clubs, and nightlife. The lifestyle you're able to live is like no other. But things are different when you become an expat and you aren't just there to enjoy the nightlife and treat your time like it's a holiday. To maintain a healthy balance, you need routine, and that's where many expats fall short. Rather than propping up the bar all day, it's imperative that I maintained a balance, and whilst Thailand has many temptations, it also has just as many facilities as we do back home. Fitness gyms, boxing and MMA gyms, co-working spaces, amazing shopping malls, Western food, and night markets galore. To say I had the most amazing 3 years in Thailand would be an understatement. I can honestly say that I had some of the best times of my life, but like anything, it wasn't perfect. The biggest challenge was the fact that my girlfriend, who I lived with back in the UK, didn't move out to Thailand with me full time. She was doing 2 months in the UK and 2 months in Thailand, which was fine to start with, but over time, it just wasn't working for me. The weather, believe it or not, can get too hot in Thailand, to the point that it restricts you from going out too much like it does with rain in the UK. It can become unbearable, and after experiencing such extreme weather, I started to miss seasons like autumn and spring. Many of the condos I rented had huge balconies and roof terraces, but they would never get used. Not once did I sit outside with a cold beer or to sit outside and dine for dinner, because it was just too hot and I'd want to be inside with the AC on. But the biggest deal breaker for me was the time spent away from my girlfriend. Only spending 6 months of the year with her just wasn't sustainable, which made me start to think about my longer term plans. I asked myself a question: could I see myself living the same lifestyle in 5, 10, 15 years time? My head kept telling me yes, but deep down I knew the answer was probably not. So for the next few months, my girlfriend and I discussed what it was exactly that we wanted in life. What did our longer term plans look like? How could we build a freedom lifestyle where we were both happy and content? Unfortunately, we both agreed that in order to build this dream life together, we would need to leave Thailand, which took some time to get used to. The place I loved, the place I've been at my happiest, and the place that I've called home for the last 3 years, the thought of moving back to the UK filled me with dread. But there was a bigger plan. In fact, the plan wasn't just bigger, it was going to be life-changing. After living in London all my adult life and more recently Bangkok, my priorities had changed. I'd changed, and the future I now envisioned looked very different to what it had only a few years prior. I'd grown bored of pubs, clubs, bars and nights out, choosing these days to be early to bed and early to rise. I wanted open space, to be amongst nature and to step back from the noise of modern day life. I was sick of consumption, the city life, and the need to want more for the sake of wanting more. But all while this had come to the forefront of my mind, I was still left with the dilemma of where I was going to base myself. For me personally, the UK just wasn't a viable option. The problems Britain is facing go well beyond social unrest and are deeply ingrained into not just society, but also the corrupt leadership that is now in power. This isn't a political view, it's a realistic view shared by many. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, dead centre, or like me, who frankly doesn't give a shit about politics. The UK is in steep decline and basically It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realise that the UK simply can't handle the sheer number of people who now decide to call it home. The trouble brewing in urban cities will only get worse, and sooner or later this will ripple out to rural locations further afield. Whether you believe this to be true is another story, but you can't deny that the UK is simply no longer offering value for money. As a small business owner, the UK government has never had my back. The Tories did sweet FA to support entrepreneurship, choosing instead to offer favourable tax breaks and benefits to larger corporations, whilst clawing every last penny from independent small businesses, which has resulted in depressing and downtrodden town centres void of character. Now, as a location independent freelancer, our government doesn't even consider me a worker. Apparently, I must be someone who seemingly prints money at will without putting in a day's graft. Yet they're more than willing to take a large chunk of my earnings to fund wars most people don't agree with and hand it out to people who arrive in this country illegally, being disrespectful to our values and traditions, spewing hatred for a country they've chosen to relocate to. And let's not forget the spiralling crime rates, two-tier policing, and a government hell-bent on persecuting British citizens for merely posting their feelings on social media. It appears that there is one rule for them and one rule for us. What the hell has this country become? I'm aware that the majority of unrest is city-centric along with surrounding towns, but under the new government leadership, it's only time before my fellow countrymen based in rural England start to feel the social impact that's engulfing the UK. With the proposed taxation on farmers and rural agricultural land, I think it's only time before we start to see our countryside turned into urban housing to cater for uninvited people arriving on our shores, paid for, I might add, by the taxpayer and at the expense of the hard-working farmers who have supplied the nation with essential produce for hundreds of years. Is it any wonder more and more people are planning their escape from the UK? And it's not just British residents who are deeply unhappy in the UK. Hard-working people who emigrated to the UK for a better life are now leaving in their droves, only to return to their home countries, citing the steep decline in Britain over the last decade. So where does that leave me? Do I stay and fight a losing battle, fearing that a simple post on social media can land me in jail? Continue to bust my balls, carving out a future for me and my girlfriend? Or do I go in search of pastures new? Well, you guessed it by now. I brought myself a truck, packed up my house in London, and set off in search of a place I could call home. But where exactly is a story for next time.